My name's Matt. We have a bunch of other members of the team here today, and today we're going to be highlighting our new Juiced Tech setup wizards, our add-on setup wizards. As you guys have used in the past, these are the ways you guys install our add-ons into your Quickbase applications or set up additional tables for already authorized applications. We're going to go through a couple different setup wizards. If you guys were here last week, we did Exact Forms Plus, PDF merger, and juice sign. So if you guys want to go check those out, definitely go look at our YouTube page. Those are up now, and you'll kind of get a similar recording as to what you're going to see today. But I just want to start off just like I did last week. In case you guys have not gotten into the Juice Cloud before, and you guys maybe just forget how to get in, very easily, you can just go to juicetech.com and then hit sign in. When you hit sign in, you're going to get a screen that looks like this. You may have noticed that we have a new sidebar banner, and that's there to just highlight that we have these new DIY setup wizards available. Again, if you have any access issues, just hit forgot your password and we'll make sure we get you in there right away. And that will be everything you need. But I already signed in on the right side of my screen here, so I'm just going to close those tabs and kind of get jumping right in. So what you're seeing here is our homepage for the Juiced Cloud. I have a couple different add-ons active, as you can see here. Your screens may look a little different. The blue tiles are active. Gray tiles are either not on trial or on trial. And then we do have a special tile just for juice time, which we have as orange, just to kind of make it highlighted a little bit more. But like I said, today we're going to be going through Excel docs, QB maps. We may touch into Easy File Importer. And then I'm also going to show you guys an add-on that does not have a setup wizard, maybe something like Text My QB, just so you guys can see kind of what happens there. And I'm going to identify what the best next steps are for an add-on that does not have a setup wizard. As many of you know, a lot of our tools kind of come out of the box DIY. You can do this without any interaction with Juice Tech at all. But some of these tools do not yet have a wizard. We are working on it. Our latest one is PDF merger. So if you guys want to check that one out, that is a new wizard. But hopefully in the near future, we'll have additional wizards for you guys to use. But for now, let's kind of jump right into Excel docs. I believe that's probably the next best one to show. So Excel docs, for those of you who don't know, is kind of the sister add-on to Exact Forms Plus, as I like to say. So Exact Forms Plus does a Word or a DocX template, where Excel docs, as you could probably guess from the name, does an Excel template, XLSX template. So we're going to go ahead and do an authorization for that. So if you guys don't have this add-on already, you're going to see there's Start Trial in the top right corner. You could hit that as well. It's going to prompt the same wizard to pop up. So I'm going to hit Authorize New Application. And you'll see that very first step, it's going to ask me which user token I want to use. So we kind of display all of the user tokens that are available for this realm. So you see I have quite a few here. Or you can choose to enter a new user token. So you would just paste that in right there from your preferences. If you guys have any questions on generating a user token, we do have that available on our help site, and we'll walk you through it step by step. That's something that you've probably had to use for pipelines or other processes in the past, so you shouldn't have an issue with that. But of course, we do have those steps laid out here. So I'm going to use an existing user token. I'm going to use this bottom one here, and we're going to authorize Excel docs in that same case management application that I used last week. So we have just one application that can be authorized. We have case management. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that one. And you can see here that we actually have two checkboxes as well that we sometimes get questions on. So I'm going to go through what those are now. We have authorize only, no setup required. The reason why you'd use that is if you were to have an existing application that you possibly have copied and made into a new one. So let's say you've had a legacy application that you've always wanted to, that you've always had, but you want to make kind of newest, latest, and greatest updates, or maybe you do a new update every calendar year. You just kind of start fresh with a copied application. If you have Excel docs or any of our other add-ons installed within that app, you're going to want to hit authorize only, no setup required. This would essentially allow you to continue to use the add-on without any hiccups or any changes needed. If you guys don't do this, you would have to reach out to us to authorize your application. So instead, you can go through this process, hit authorize only, no setup. This is not going to add new tables. This is not going to add new fields. It is essentially only going to authorize it on the Juice Tech side of things so that you are allowed to use that app and we won't throw a unauthorized error for you guys. So hopefully no questions with that. But if you do, please feel free to reach out. Upgrade setup. Now, Excel Docs is one of the only add-ons that you'll see an upgrade setup for. And that's because we have the Excel Docs configurator now and a couple of additional fields that we've created over the years that kind of assist in the usage of Excel Docs. So let's say you had a legacy installation back, let's say 4 years ago. There's probably more fields now that were not originally created that you're going to need in order to run this properly. So if you hit the upgrade setup, it's going to almost do the same thing as authorize only. It's just going to add just those additional fields needed so that you have the latest and greatest version within your application. Again, if you hit something like upgrade setup, this changes to finish. Same thing with authorize only, no setup. It'll just change to finish. So we're going to go ahead, uncheck that so that we can go to the next one and move on from there. So just like Exact Forms Plus, which you may have seen last week, there's two different versions we have right now of Excel Docs. Anyone who's worked with us previously, you probably remember that we used to always have two different tiles for our document generation add-ons. So for Exact Forms Plus, Excel Docs, and PDF Stamper, you always saw their respective batch processing tiles as well. So you would see Exact Forms Plus bulk, Excel Docs bulk, and PDF Stamper bulk. We've kind of condensed those into one tile now just to keep things clean and orderly. And also because that is technically one add-on. They're not billed separately. They're all billed under one umbrella, and you're able to use both versions with your subscription. So we thought it would probably make more sense to keep these together now. So you'll see that we have the option to generate single document, which is really the traditional version. You're generating one Excel document per one record, where you have the bulk document generation version. That essentially is allowing you to say, hey, I want to generate an Excel document for this report of 100 records, or this report of all July invoices, something like that. So that would be the use case rather than having to click down a line, generate invoice, generate invoice, generate invoice. You press one button that generates all those invoices in one shot. The other reason why we call it single document generation versus bulk document generation is single document generation also will now make the triggered version of Excel Docs. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it's essentially still Excel Docs batch, but it's really just running based off of a conditional change to Quickbase. So you will use an email notification to trigger off Excel Docs to generate. So you don't actually have to have an end user go ahead and click a button. They can just work through their typical daily workflow. And if you know after X point, you would like that document to be generated every time, that can be fired off based off of a conditional trigger. That now gets generated automatically. That new field gets created automatically rather than you having to install that separately when you do the single document generation version. Of course, that's not going to hurt anything. If you don't need it, just don't use it. Take it off your form. I wouldn't recommend deleting it because you may want it one day, but it's not going to hurt anything. So we're just going to make that for you as part of this setup now. All right. And then, as you guys have always done in the past, for anyone who's done a setup of any of our document generation add-ons, you very simply are just going to choose the table you'd like to generate Excel docs from. So previously I had done quotes. So let's just do quotes again to keep things simple. And you can then choose the output file type. You can always change this in the future. So don't worry if you aren't sure. Just pick one of them. It's just a very simple parameter that you could always change in the future, just right behind the scenes of the button in the field settings. But we have the XLX option, we have the PDF option, and CSV option. The template to use, this is an important one to remember. The standard template we're going to give you is just basically going to be a blank Excel sheet. So if you want to, or you already have your own custom Excel template, you can choose to upload that there. And we're going to give you a file attachment field to select what option you want from your own file explorer. You certainly don't have to do that. You could always upload it later if you don't have it already. The other option, which we didn't always historically have, is use an existing template. So you may already have, record ID 3 in your document templates table have Excel docs, a template ready to go in there. So rather than making a new record in the document templates table, you can just reutilize the same existing template record. So you might just want to put 3 in here. That's what that's going to do. Definitely good for kind of keeping things organized rather than making additional miscellaneous records that are either just going to take up space, confuse people, or you're eventually just going to delete anyway. So if you don't have, so if you already have it, use that option. If not, use the standard sample template. Can't hurt. You also can, I want to say this because I said it last week, it also can't hurt to just choose the default options. Anything that's required that we already have filled in, if you're not sure what to do, the worst thing you can do is just start pressing random options that you're not sure of. The best thing you can do if you're not sure, just keep everything as the default. And what's going to get created is our typical use case, which you're probably looking for anyway. But for those of you who know what you're looking for, then choose those additional options. So with that said, you may want to look at some advanced settings. So we also have the ability to save Excel docs to Amazon S3. So if I were to click this Amazon S3 checkbox here, you'll see that I have a new step on the left side for Amazon S3 account setup. And that's essentially going to be asking for my S3 bucket, my S3 access key, and secret access key. I'll just show you guys that quickly. Access key, secret access key, bucket, also your region in case you guys are in different S3 regions. I'm obviously not going to show you guys this now. I'm not going to, show our S3 credentials here, but that's what you would be adding if you were interested in that and need help getting your S3 credentials. We have some help site information here. Let's see if this one's live. It is. Cool. So, we can help you guys with that as well. And if you have any questions with connecting Amazon S3 to Excel Docs, Exact Forms Plus, or any of our other tools, please feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help with that. But for now, I'm just going to go back one step, choose none again, make that step go away. The other option we have here is a repository table. So for those of you guys who don't know what a repository table is, it's essentially allowing you to save your completed documents onto a different table than where you are generating them from. So many of you may have a documents table, for example, that you're storing multiple different tables worth of documents into one place, just so it's all somewhere central. So if you choose to do the repository table, again, same thing here. We now have the repository table set up as additional steps available. If I hit next there, you're going to see that it's going to show all the additional repository table information, such as just asking what the table is. So if I were to hit create table, I could just name the table, repo, something like that. So everything I've done this far is basically it for an Excel Docs setup. So I'm going to finish this now, and you're going to see Excel Docs jump in there. And you see, oh, sorry, it looks like we ran into an error. Uh-oh, what'd I do, Dylan? Clicking too many buttons in one session, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take a look.
The other thing that I saw Dylan also mention that Dropbox was not yet supported. So I'm going to go ahead and just point that out again. Let's see. Typically, everyone's not clicking every single button in one demo,
The
but that's on
Dropbox is supported, it's just not in Stamper.
right. I do see the repo table also got added. It could be a permissions thing, Dylan. I'm pretty good at that. Let's just do the standard setup and see how that goes. I think it much prefers when I don't click every single button at the same time, but that's also just me. And then after this, I'm just going to show you quickly. If I jump into that case management application, hit refresh, we do have the Excel docs repo table that got created there, the document subtable Excel, which is the only difference between Exact Forms Plus and Excel docs. In a sense, we have a document subtable Excel table. And I'm going to go ahead. I believe I put that into quotes. So let's go check that out. By the way, here's that finish screen, just in case you guys didn't see that. We have all of the options, basically tell you congratulations, it's been set up successfully. That we have the next steps, as I was mentioning before, we have the Excel docs batch arguments that gets generated automatically. So to do that, you need that email notification that I mentioned before. We lay out those steps because that's really something the wizard can't handle right now. We can't make email notifications with the Quickbase API. So we'll have to go through that. And then, of course, you can have a link back to the quotes table where we show you that we added all of that information into. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And we'll go into John Doe's record and scroll all the way to the bottom where you'll see all of the additional information got added. So we have our create Excel sheet options here. We have our mobile friendly option, and then we have our create Excel sheet. Again, one of these is the PB version, I'm pretty sure. This one is rich text, which does not have the PB in it. Essentially, these buttons are 3 different flavors of the same ice cream, I'd like to say. They're all going to be generating the same thing at this moment, but they all can be used just a little bit differently depending on your use case. They're all also going to save to the Excel docs document table and the Excel docs date. They're updating the same ones. In the future, for some reason, let's say you wanted to have 2 or 3 different templates, you can easily change the TP ID behind the scenes here. We were talking about that earlier. That's that document template ID. You can refer to some of our older videos where we go through each and every one of these parameters. If you have any questions, that's not necessarily what I'm going to go through today. I'm going to continue forward with the next setup. So that's Excel docs for you guys there. And that's the Excel docs wizards, everything you could do with it there. So let's close this one out. I'll just hit refresh. As you can see as well, we do have that case management application now authorized in your authorized apps there. So if you ever wanted to set up another table, you would just click set up another table here, and it's going to go through and do that setup for maybe, let's say, the clients table or for the invoices table or timesheets, whatever it might be for your guys' individual use case. So I'm going to hit home. I always like to hit refresh in the top right corner because that makes sure that everything's up to date with the latest and greatest from Quickbase. And I'm going to go now and I'm going to show you guys QB Maps. So QB Maps is one of our setups that some would consider more advanced. So that's why we're going to go ahead and show you guys how to do this one as well, because I think that this is worth utilizing today. So let's go ahead and hit authorize new application, same thing as before. And just as a note, again, if you don't already have this set up, there's going to be start trial in the top right corner here. Please feel free to go ahead and hit start free trial. That's a 2-week free trial, and you guys should be able to get this up and running yourselves. If you have any questions on the trial or you have any issues, please feel free to always put a support ticket in or contact us at support@juicetech.com. But let's go ahead and jump into authorize new application here. Again, I'm going to select that same user token I was showing before. And I'm going to put this into the same case management application. Same thing I mentioned before, authorize only, no setup. If you guys had an existing application and you guys just want to have QB Maps work in it for like your next version, you can authorize it by doing authorize only, no setup. That works for sure. When you go through, the first step is going to basically ask you, what table do you want to have maps on it? Where are these addresses found? So let's go ahead and let's take a double check look at where I can find these addresses. I believe clients is going to be the table I'm going to want to have this come from. So we have addresses for my clients table, and you can see that they're kind of all over the globe here. So that should be interesting. So we're going to pick clients. And the address field in this scenario, clearly we're going to choose address, but you may see that we have create a field as an option there as well. So if you guys don't have an address field already, we can make one for you. It's there in bold, but I'm going to choose address here. The location name field, this would be something like maybe company name or project name or location name, something like that. If you have it already as a field, in this scenario, I'm just going to use maybe last name, something as an identifier. And then you can also choose to make a radius table. And that's an option I'm going to show right now. That's going to essentially allow you to have one central location pin where you go out and then generate all of the pins that meet that central location. So I'm going to go ahead and check that just to show you how to make that radius table. On this side option right here, select 3 fields for pins. This is allowing you to show, and all these help texts are populated now. It's going to show the fields when you click on the pin, what fields from Quickbase for that record do you want to show. So you can show some additional information, like maybe an email address, a phone number, number of activities related to that individual location. You can have those populated as well. So for this one, I'm just going to choose something like email, maybe first name, and phone. Or maybe I'll take that out and maybe I'll do last name because maybe that makes more sense. So email, phone, last name. One of the other cool things about QB Maps and something that's new with the wizards here, and we have it in PDF merger as well, is the ability to build a query right from within the wizard. So in the past, you had to build your queries in the actual button itself in a formula URL field. You had to have some background on how to make Quickbase queries. Where now we have our query builder installed within this. And this essentially allows you to make queries just like you would if you're building a report. So we mimic the report builder pretty one-to-one. So you can see that we have all of the conditions are true. And we could select a field and let's say something like address is not equal to blank. That's the first one we want to do. We want to say we only want to bring back records where there is an address right now, because obviously if there's no address, you can't plot it on a map. So we're going to hit next. And let's say we can also do maybe that the person's phone number is not blank or the email address is not blank, or the last name is equal to Tillinghast or is equal to Doe. You could absolutely do that as well. Or maybe you just want to say last name is equal to blank or not equal to blank, or the number of activities, if number of quote records is equal to greater than or equal to 1. So basically, they have had a quote in the past X amount of months. You can do anything like that just because you're building out that query as if you would with any other Quickbase query. Now, I don't know if that condition is actually true or not, so I'm just going to take that one out, and we're only going to leave the one that says address is not equal to the value blank. And the other thing here is we do have to update the radius table. So you can click on that tab at the top, and it's going to ask you what the radius table is going to be. So in this scenario, I'm probably just going to choose clients again. And I'm going to say the same information here. We're going to use that same address field. The location name, I'm going to choose the same thing, last name. And the bounding radius miles, this is basically saying how far out do you want to have that radius be? So for those of you who are maybe central, super localized, like you're doing, maybe electrician work or you're doing pavement work and you only want to have that be in a really close location, maybe you only want to do 5 miles. But for those of you who are seeing clients that are all over the country, maybe all over a state, maybe you want to do something like 50 miles. So you can absolutely have that radius be as big or as small as you need. And then again, for that central radius pin, that's what this is doing here. You can choose what fields you want to show in that central radius pin. So I'm likely just going to choose the same ones I chose before, just to make things simple. And then when you hit finish, this is now going to install QB Maps into that case management application. Now, just kind of moments prior to doing this, I also did a setup to my CRM starter application, which, by the way, kudos to Quickbase. Being able to stand up applications in moments using the AI builder is awesome. So it makes my life a heck of a lot easier for these office hour sessions, that's for sure. So I'm going to show you guys just a pretty cool setup for that CRM starter application as well, because this one, being that the addresses are all over the European Union, I'm not sure how well that's going to come out, but let's just see. Out of pure curiosity, I'm going to go ahead and launch QB Maps for this one. So it looks like maybe we found another one, but anyway, there's my one pin. It doesn't look like there's another location within 50 miles. That's totally fine. That does meet the criteria we're looking for, as these locations are all within different countries. Well, let's just open up the CRM starter application. I know that if I open up my company's table, which by the way, before this meeting, I did do a QB map setup for this one. And if I look, I can see that there's a bunch of addresses here in New York City. So instead of going in and doing some guesswork, we can click on this one where we'll see all of the addresses that fall within 5 miles of this location. So you'll see here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. My red pin is my central location pin. So that's where I can say, show me all of the pins within 5 miles of that location. So there we are in New York City. For those of you who don't know, once you're here in QB Maps, you can do many things like such as have a multi-select tool to enable the best route to get to all of these. So I can choose the same central location and get directions for all of these here. So pretty cool, very nifty add-on. It certainly has many use cases that you guys will be able to find as super beneficial in the future. So if you guys are ever in the market for a mapping tool that's a little bit more than what Quickbase has natively, I would certainly recommend checking this one out. It's QB Maps. But I don't want to go too far into that use case either, as today is really just for the wizards. All right, so then we have our case management application authorized here. You see that we have our one pin usage, our couple pins used for the CRM starter app, all shown right there. One thing I want to note is you're actually not going to be able to set up the same table twice, same app twice, right? Right, James? Am I wrong on how I'm saying that? You can't do the same app twice.
So sort of. If you're doing the radius, you actually can set it up multiple times in that same app. But if you're not doing the radius when it's creating that QB maps table, then you're not able to do it multiple times. Mainly just because we create that table and it has all of those fields in it, as well as the formula field that controls QB maps, and we don't really want to modify that, especially in case you guys went in, modified it, made your own changes to it. We don't want to overwrite that and then potentially remove everything you did. So yeah, if you're not doing the radius, the setup will really only work once for that app. But if you are using the radius, or if you're using the QB maps table and then doing a radius setup afterwards, that will work.
Right. Thank you, James. Uh, we have a question from Jim. What is the security behind QB Maps? Meaning, if someone who is not an application user received this QB link, would they be able to see the map and all of the data? That's a good question. I'll probably refer that to you again, James.
Yeah. So I don't know if you noticed the link that when Matt had clicked on it. If you look at the URL, you'll notice that it is a giant jumbled mess. That is because we are encoding that. So thankfully that will help so that if, for example, that link were to go out to somebody else, they can't really change it so that they can use it for other things. But technically, yes, if they have this link, they would be able to view this map with all of these locations. For example, these 5 locations here, and whatever information is on them. But at least with the encoding on that URL, they wouldn't necessarily be able to change that query or the radius or anything like that. But yeah, so I think that's more of a matter of just how did they get that link? But yeah, if they do somehow manage to get that link, they would be able to see this. So
Right. All right. Thanks, James. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. They're not going to be able to do anything further with this URL. But if for some reason someone were to send them that URL, copy and pasted it to someone else, they would be able to see that in this state, exactly what you can see here now. I think if they were to hit click to view, which will take you back to that individual record within Quickbase, that will stop them. Of course, they will need to be logged in to do that. So you'll only be able to see these preview fields that we show here within that pin that I was selecting earlier, if you remember. So yeah, good question though. I appreciate that. Thanks, Jim. Hopefully, if you have any further questions, please feel free to jump in again. But with that said, I do want to just go back to our Juice Cloud for a moment. One additional thing that I want to show you guys as part of the other setups is a setup for an add-on that does not have a wizard. Because what you'll see now for something like Text MyQB, we don't have a wizard at this moment, but we do give you the option to authorize a new application. And the reason why is because what we're essentially doing here is we're doing, geez, Louise, I thought I wasn't sharing my screen the whole time for a second. Quick, Zoom changed their outer arrow, but I digress. Text my QB though. The reason why you're doing this is it's essentially just doing the authorize only no setup option here. So if I were to click text telling us Matthew for this user token that I've used before, and you hit next, I can choose case management, and that's it. You see that the option here is just finish. So for an add-on like this, all you're essentially doing is authorizing this application. So you'll see you get this message. Thank you for authorizing TextMyQB for your Quickbase application. There's no further action required from you at this time. We'll be reaching out to you at Matthew T at Juice Tech with next steps as soon as possible. So I guess I'll be reaching out to you. But with that said, there are next steps that we'll be reaching out to you with for sure. So, something like TextMyQB, there's something called a 10 DLC registration, which is now industry standard, where you have to go through and register your brand and your campaign to move forward with this tool. And then we'll be able to procure you your own SMS number to be able to send text from. So even if you're going to start a trial for something like this, that is kind of a mandatory step. We kind of got pigeoned into that. That is, again, industry standard. There's nothing we can do about that. However, we would be more than happy to get you guys started with that in the future. We also do hope to have something like a TextMyQB configurator, similar to what we have for QB Courier, so that you guys can do additional steps right from within the Juice Cloud here. The only other one that I had planned to potentially show is Easy File Importer. Now, Easy File Importer is a unique one. There's not really many options you have there. It's kind of just going to add 5 new tables to your application to be able to run Easy File Importer, and the rest is going to be done from within your guys' applications. So before I go ahead and do that, I want to just pause for a second. I do want to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions, whether it's about any of these add-on setups that I've done or about any of our add-ons in general. So I'm going to give you guys a moment for that. All right, that's fine. I'm thinking that means no one's got any questions, no worries. So I'm just going to go through quickly, do Easy File Importer setup. And then from there, I think I'm going to let you guys go for today. This has been a good session just to show you guys some additional wizard setups. Again, these wizards are kind of the latest and greatest. So if you find that you run into anything, if you run into any errors or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll make sure we get that figured out for you right away. So again, for the Easy File Importer setup, I'm going to choose that same user token, that case management application. And then again, it's just going to ask me, okay, you're not done. Read the following below before you proceed. The wizard will create the following tables for you. So we're basically just warning you, we're about to make 5 new tables in your application. So these are all required to run Easy File Importer. For many of our other add-ons, it's 1 or 2 tables. This is a couple more just by the nature of this add-on. But as soon as you agree to that and you essentially hit finish, that's going to add these 5 tables into your app, and the rest of the configuration is done from there in your app. Just as a note, if you guys don't realize this already, our Juice Tech help site page has setup information for almost all these add-ons. So if you go, there's actually an Easy File Importer tab right here and Easy File Importer setup. So we have everything you might need that's going to describe step by step to get this started. We have arrows pointing to exactly what these fields do, exactly what the parameters are, what it should look like on your guys' end of things. So realistically, you guys should be able to get yourselves onboarded right from these help texts here. If you do have issues though, questions, comments, concerns on anything like this, after you do the installation, which again, you see here, we just did that installation. If I refresh this page, you'll see that I have all of these tables now installed as well. So again, if there's ever any questions on that, please feel free to reach out to us at support@juicetech.com and we'd be more than happy to get you started. But we do have the information available for you now.